discrepancy, then you again come to the design, change the design, and you build it. But when it comes to the life, we do not know what is the design principle of the life, and that is the that hinders us to making or engineering system, something like that. Now, so in other words, what I can say that we can read the blueprint of the life, we can write that blueprint of the life. The question is, do we understand? For example, here you can see this is an blueprint of an engineering drawing, right? So now everything is written in English. Okay, all these geometrical shapes we do know. So we can read it, we can write it, but unless as a proper engineer, you cannot get it what it has been written. So we don't understand. This is the same for the biology. We do not understand the biology at all in terms of its design. Now, but question is why we don't do that? So we have to go a little bit of history. And this guy is a Max Delbruck, who actually got the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine in 1969 by discovering the replication process in a virus. Now, Max Delbruck was a very much actually is a gifted physicist. He was a student of Niels Bohr. Now you can imagine that time, that was the century of the physics, and everyone was so excited about the physics because in one hand there is like quantum mechanics, and another hand there is a theory of relativity. So everybody is so excited that they can find a new rules of the physics, because that time people started finding a lot of the new rules of the physics, and Max was not definitely an exception. So you'd like to get a new laws of the physics, but what he chose to look at the biological systems, because he believed that everyone is looking at the physical or chemical system to find the new laws of the physics. Why not look at the biology? We know very little about the biology, so I might get a new laws of the physics from the biology. Interestingly, when it comes to the biology, he found that he could not find any new laws of the physics from the biology, but what he found that biology actually follows the rules of the physics and the chemistry. And so he actually brought, he used to call is the father of the molecular biology, because as a physicist, he would like to see the biology from a molecular perspective. Now, we don't know probably, because whatever we are studying, either you are studying a basic science or either you're studying an like engineering, either you're studying a biology or the physics. So we all have somehow is drowned in the culture of that particular subject. And what is the culture of the physics that time, or philosophy of this physics, was a reductionist approach. So as a physicist, when he came to the biology, without his, he didn't know, but what he brought to the biology is that reductionist approach, and that is this. So what is the reductionist approach? So in high school, when you actually solve the Newton mechanics problem, okay, so either it's in an art, or it could be a car, it could be a ball, you always bring everything down to a point mass. Then you actually calculate the Hamiltonian of it, and then whatever you got the results, you mapped in that either it's art, or it's a car, or it's a ball. So that is the particular reductionist approach of the physics. You bring everything down a simplistic way. Now, that gives the biology a boost, because you know the reductionist approach in the biology gives a different philosophy, because you know that when people look for a particular gene responsible for a disease, or a particular protein responsible for disease, they always actually brings this reductionist approach in the mind. And what is the highest manifestation of this reductionist approach is definitely this is the Human Genome Project, because this took like $3 billion of the money, and this money, most of them came from the definitely the government of United States of America. So to convince the politicians, the Watson had to give a lecture in US Senate, and suggesting that as the disease are connected with the genes, so if you know each of the genes of the human body, then we can actually cure every disease, including the cancer. But today, what we do know that from this Human Genome Project, whatever the knowledge we gathered, we cannot cure cancer from this data directly. Now, the question is why we cannot do, because this reductionist approach, it does not hold good for the biology. Why is that? Because as I said the reductionist biologists, they used to think, or molecular biologists, they used to think that a biological function depends on a single gene or protein. But today we do know that a biological function depends on the interactions of the several hundreds or several thousands of the genes and proteins together. So here is just a glimpse of the idea of how the complexity of the biology. So at my left-hand side, what you can see actually is a network of the computers, okay, which are connected through the internet of whole world in the year 2009. And my right-hand side, what you can see is the picture of a simplified representation of a biomolecular network of a bacteria. Just if you look at the topology of this system, you can see that the level of the complexity is almost same. But on the top of it, these biological interactions are nonlinear. There's a lot of feedbacks. And what is noise? There's a lot of noise. What does that mean? That at this moment there is no mathematics available to decipher this kind of basically the complexity, what is a simplified representation of biomolecular bacteria network in the bacteria, and that looks like a dead end to understand the biology from a very design level of the principle. However, human race never stopped at the dead end, so they try to find a new way that how it can be go around. And from the end of the last century, people started understanding that this particular biological or some of the biological network has some similarity with the other network-related field, like electrical engineering networks or the computer science or the basically the electronics. So those kind of network has a similar level of mathematical abstraction with the biological networks. The biological networks are extremely complex than any electrical network what we have know that. But however, this gives a simple way out, that is a complementary way to understand the biological systems from a systems perspective, from a networks perspective, and that's sometimes called as the molecular systems biology. Now, if this philosophy is correct, then it is also possible that we could actually generate small biological network following the electrical engineering principle, put it inside the cell and develop a new function. So basically you start from your protein and genes, you develop a biochemical reactions, but you are taking the rules not from the evolutionary principle, because which you do not know, but you are trying to take the rules from this, how the gate makes a module. So that electrical or electronics engineering principle you want to put in the biology and try to develop some of the new function. So this gives an way in the biology as a design-based or biological engineering as a design-based subject. So probably you have seen this movie, or probably you not. I'm not recommending to watch this movie. But what I like to tell you, so there is a very interesting connection between the Aamir Khan in this movie, Ghazni, and bacteria. Now, what is that? So if you, either you remember or not, it doesn't matter. So there was a scene in this movie, Ghazni. And okay, so one of the problem with the Aamir Khan, he actually forgets everything because he had some wound on his head, and he forgets everything at every moment. So at one scene, what you can see, this Ghazni actually chasing a guy. He's chasing. Sorry, I mean, Aamir Khan is chasing a guy, chasing. And suddenly, at a certain road, there is a truck came and actually hit that particular guy. And exactly at that moment, Aamir Khan looked completely perfect because he actually forgets everything what he was doing. Now, what I'm trying to tell you that what does this scene actually tells us about the memory is that if you want to do a next step, like when you're running, so you're making your next steps, you remember your previous steps because you are chasing someone. Unless if you can remember that, you looks perplexed. And exactly what happened when this Aamir Khan forgets everything, he doesn't know that what he was doing. Now you come to the bacteria. So if you have studied, I mean, definitely you have studied in your high school biology, there's something called chemotaxis in the bacteria, which basically means if you give a food or a chemical, and then bacteria actually swims towards it, and that's called the chemotaxis. Now this bacteria has a two different kind of motion. The one motion is going towards and directly going straight towards the towards that food or chemicals, and another motion is something called a spinning motion. So it actually instead of going going anyway, any side, it actually start actually spinning by itself. So what happens now? Think about a thought experiment. Now you have a let's say you have a beaker, and in the one side of the beaker you actually gave a cube of the sugar, and this sugar will diffuse from one side to another. So you get a high concentration near the sugar, and the sugar concentration is diffusing low to the other end of the beaker. And other end of the beaker, you actually placed some of the bacteria. And now this bacteria has sensor which can sense these sugar particles, and they start moving towards it. Now remember, the bacteria is only a micron size object. So if there is a Brownian motion in the water, that Brownian motion hits the bacteria and it can actually change its direction to other direction. Now, when this bacteria is going towards the sugar, okay, it is going directly to the sugar by swimming. But if water hits and sent to the other direction, what this bacteria does, it don't go. Because if it goes, it has to go to the opposite direction. It stops there and starts spinning. So another Brownian motion, some turbulence of the water hits back the bacteria towards the sugar, and then this bacteria starts going towards that. Now, what does it mean? So this exactly means that the Gaussian means that if it finds that in a certain direction there is a huge the concentration of the chemical or concentration of the sugar is increasing, and he's going there, and you take it back to the other way, then he can actually compare that in this way there is the sugar concentration is decreasing, it is less. That was he stops. But to stop it, it has to remember the previous instance, right? Otherwise it cannot stop, because but it can remember. Now believe that bacteria doesn't have brain. But how this bacteria transiently remembers the previous instances, right? So that is the question, and that question actually answered through what I call the first example of the synthetic biology. So I'm not going to the biology here, but what they actually developed, they gave an artificial system inside the bacteria where you can actually give something called an IPTG, which is a very small molecule chemicals. And this small molecule, due to the small molecule chemicals, there is an increase in a protein which is called green fluorescence protein. And if you take that IPTG off, still it is producing. If you give another chemical, ATC is coming down. I'm not going to the biology, but what I'm trying to say, what they actually developed a simple memory switch. It can remember this IPTG has been given. That is why when IPTG has been taken off, it still stays on. It's exactly like a switch. So as an engineering student, you do know is RS latch. So to make this kind of the system, what this is a simple memory system what they developed in the biology, and they took the engineering principle from the switch. Now, what is the biological manifestation of a RS latch? In qualitatively, what you need is two mutually repressing promoter gene pairs. Whatever that means, you don't have to go in the details. But what I'm trying to say, you have a qualitative principle, but just knowing this qualitative principle, you cannot make this memory, because it also has a quantitative principle. This quantitative principle says only at a certain parameter level, this system will work as a memory switch or as a bistable system. So if you have studied nonlinear dynamics, you have probably studied this bistable or monostable system. So any other parameter level, you always get a monostable system, not the bistable. So when you know the parameters, now whatever your genetic system you're developing, you can actually change its lot of reaction rates like transcription, translation, their interactions with the DNA, so on and so on, and bring those parameters in the level of this bistable regime so that you can make this the memory switch. So this I can tell you, or you can understand, that it's completely it is very different than what is the conventional biotechnology or the genetic engineering we know today. Because here, first you need a design. Similarly, when you are developing a design in mechanical engineering, when developing something in electrical engineering, and so on, right? So that's in the design. So that's the difference between the biotechnology and the synthetic biology. Now, I'll give you one example. And after like 10 years of that, or 12 years after that, people actually develop. I mean, it came as something like computers destroy cancer cell. So what actually they developed a classifier circuit. So any students of electronic computer and electrical engineering, they know that what is the classifier circuit is. So this classifier circuit and actually can sense a set of microRNA inside the bacterial cells, right? And there's in cancer cells, and in this cancer cell there are 6 microRNA